There comes a moment in a man's life, a quiet and chilling realization that often arrives not with a bang, but in the stillness after an argument that never happened, in the space between words where silence now lives. It is the understanding that the same woman who once adored him, who used to look at him as if he held the stars in his hands, now regards him with a coldness that feels surgical in its precision. This shift is often misinterpreted as love curdling into hate, but that is a surface-level reading, a comforting lie we tell ourselves to simplify a complex emotional warfare. The truth is far more unsettling. It is not love that is turned into hate. It is control that is curdled into rage. The transformation begins at the point of your emotional emancipation. For a period, perhaps a long one, your emotional world was her domain. Your reactions, your joys, your frustrations, they were landscapes she learned to navigate, and, more importantly, to cultivate. She knew which words would seed jealousy, which silences would harvest concern, and which touches would yield forgiveness. Your empathy was the fertile ground in which her influence grew. But then, something changed. You began to reclaim your inner territory. It might have been a conscious decision born of exhaustion, or a subconscious shift toward self-preservation. You stopped being so readily available, so easily moved. You ceased to offer the jealous glance, the angry word, the desperate late-night call that she had come to expect as her due. This is the trigger. Your calmness is not received as indifference, which can be fought with grand gestures or dramatic pleas. Instead, it is perceived as a new form of dominance, not the kind that comes from arrogance or overt manipulation, but the kind that emanates from a profound and unassailable emotional control. You have built a fortress within yourself, and she has been locked out. For a woman whose sense of power is intrinsically linked to her emotional influence, this is a form of suffocation. The very air she used to breathe, the charged atmosphere of your shared emotional drama, has grown thin. She realizes, with a dawning panic, that her most powerful weapon has been rendered inert. She can no longer use your empathy, your desire for harmony, your innate need to fix and soothe, as a lever to move you. Internally, this sparks a crisis. The man she believed she understood, the one whose emotional levers she could press with predictable results, has vanished. In his place is a man who is unmoved, not because he is cruel or uncaring, but because he is centered in a self-validation that no longer requires her stamp of approval. This self-possession is an existential threat to the dynamic she mastered, her entire framework for the relationship. One where her moods dictated the weather and your emotions orbited hers like a predictable satellite, is crumbling. She feels irrelevant, her power exposed as an illusion that only existed with your consent. And so the coldness sets in. It's the first visible sign of this internal panic. It's a test, a probe sent into the new silence you have created. She becomes distant, detached, her warmth replaced by a clinical politeness. She is waiting, watching closely for a crack in your composure. She is searching for any sign that the old levers still work, that a part of the man she could control still remains, buried beneath the newfound calm. She needs to see a flicker of worry in your eyes when she mentions a new male coworker, a flare of irritation when she dismisses your opinion, a hint of desperation in your voice when you ask if everything is okay. These reactions are her validation, the proof that she still matters, that her emotional gravity still pulls at you. When you fail to provide these reactions, the panic intensifies. Your non-reaction is not seen as strength, but as a personal rejection of her influence. It reads as a silent declaration that she no longer holds a significant place in your emotional world. This is the core of the chilling realization. Her rage is not about the loss of love, but about the loss of authority. She is not mourning the death of affection. She is mourning the demise of her command over your inner state. Your peace feels like an act of cruelty because it forces her to confront a terrifying truth that her power was never inherent, but was a dependency you allowed, a role you played in a drama she directed. Now, the script has been burned, and you have walked off the stage, leaving her alone in an empty theater, shouting lines that no longer have any meaning. This is the moment the foundation cracks, and the true battle for your soul begins. When the initial coldness fails to provoke the desired reaction, a more insidious phase begins. The strategy shifts from passive withdrawal to active engineering of chaos. The woman who once sought to control through affection now realizes that direct influence is futile. The fortress of your calm has walls too high to scale, and so, if she cannot control you directly, her new objective becomes to make you lose control of yourself. This is not a battle fought on the open field of logic or reason, but a guerrilla war of psychological sabotage, waged in the shadows of implication and subtext. The primary weapon in this new campaign is confusion. She begins to operate in a constant state of contradiction, creating a reality that is fluid and unpredictable. She will say one thing and do another with a straight face, leaving you to reconcile the irreconcilable. She might pull you close with a moment of startling intimacy, a lingering touch, a vulnerable confession. A plan for a future vacation only to then push you away with a dismissive comment or a wall of silence the very next day. This push-pull dynamic is calculated and deliberate. Its purpose is to disorient you, to keep you perpetually off balance, forever guessing where you stand. The stability you have cultivated internally is now under external assault from a world she is deliberately making unstable. This is the essence of the test of your frame. Your frame is the internal structure of your beliefs, your boundaries, and your self-worth. It is the bedrock upon which your new piece is built. Her tactics are designed to find the fault lines in that foundation and exploit them. She is subtly trying to provoke you into an emotional response, because even anger, jealousy, or desperate confusion would be a victory for her. It would prove that she can still reach you, that your calm is a facade, and that the levers, while rusty, still function. She wants to see you unravel, to see you scrambling to fix a problem that has no solution because the problem is not a misunderstanding, but her own need for dominance. The most corrosive tactic in this phase is the assault on your perception itself. She will recount shared events with details that never happened, assign motives to your actions that you never held, or deny saying things you clearly remember her saying. This is a form of psychological gaslighting, and its goal is to make you question your own sanity, your memory, and your grasp on reality. When you can no longer trust your own mind, you become dependent on her version of events. You start to second-guess your every thought, looking to her for validation and clarification. In this state of self-doubt, you are pliable. You are willing to surrender your own truth to regain a sense of consistency, even if that consistency is manufactured and controlled entirely by her. It is a brutal, covert way to reestablish the dependency she lost, your greatest defense, and the move that is most devastating to her strategy. It's a consistent and unbreakable non-reaction. When you refuse to engage in the argument over what was truly said, when you observe her contradictory behavior without taking the bait, and when you meet her attempts to create drama with a calm, neutral acknowledgement, you demonstrate a strength that is impervious to her chaos. Your silence in the face of her noise becomes a powerful statement. It communicates that her attempts to destabilize you are not only failing but are also being seen for what they are: transparent and ineffective tactics. This is where the dynamic truly flips. Your composure becomes a mirror, and in it, she is forced to watch the reflection of her own chaos. Your calm does not provoke her. It exposes her. While you remain steady, she is the one expending energy on creating storms in a teacup. While you are focused on your purpose and your peace, she is preoccupied with devising new ways to trigger you. The contrast becomes glaring. Her escalating attempts at manipulation start to look increasingly desperate and foolish, against the backdrop of your unwavering stillness. She may accuse you of being cold or emotionally unavailable, but what she truly means is that you are emotionally disciplined. She is labeling your greatest strength as a flaw because it is a strength she cannot overcome. The realization begins to dawn on her that she is no longer fighting you. She is fighting against the immutable law of your own self-respect. And in that battle, she is hopelessly outmatched. When the tactics of chaos fail to elicit a reaction, a critical and dangerous threshold is crossed. The simmering frustration born from your unshakable calm boils over into something colder and more destructive. The objective is no longer to test your frame or pull you back into the old dynamic. It is to punish you for having one. This shift marks the transition from manipulation to outright warfare, where the goal is no longer influence, but revenge. The driving force is a searing, personal sense of powerlessness. And the only way to alleviate it, in her mind, is to make you feel the same profound lack of control. If she cannot be the architect of your emotions, she will settle for being the architect of your ruin. This is the descent into vindictiveness. The subtle psychological games are abandoned in favor of overt, damaging actions. She might begin to spread rumors, carefully crafted narratives that paint you as the villain, the one who is cold, emotionally abusive, or unfaithful. These stories are not designed to be believable to you, but to your shared social circle. It is a strategic move to isolate you, to rally a tribe against you, and to validate her own narrative of victimhood. By turning mutual friends against you, she seizes social proof and makes your peace look like the silence of a guilty man. She twists past stories, plucking moments of your vulnerability or conflict out of context and reframing them as evidence of your inherent toxicity. She is not just lying about you, she is rewriting the shared history of the relationship, casting herself as the long-suffering heroine and you as the antagonist who forced her. Han playing the victim becomes her primary role. In every retelling, she is the one who is patient, who tried everything, who was ultimately driven to this extreme by your unfeeling detachment. This performance is crucial because it justifies her own destructive behavior, both to herself and to others. It allows her to frame her revenge as a form of righteous self-defense. She cannot tolerate the cognitive dissonance of being the aggressor against a man who has done nothing but remain calm. So she must construct a reality where her aggression is not only justified but necessary. Your very refusal to engage is weaponized against you. Your silence is presented as proof of your callousness. Your calmness is evidence of a lack of love. Her efforts become focused on one overarching mission: to bait you into breaking your silence. She will escalate her actions, hoping to find the one pressure point that will make you flinch. She might engage in public subtweeting or social media posts laden with hidden meaning, designed to get under your skin. She may accidentally show up at places she knows you frequent, forcing an encounter to gauge your reaction. Every one of these moves is a hook cast into the water of your peace, and she is watching the surface with a desperate intensity, waiting for even the slightest ripple. This is the most perilous moment for a man. The natural, human instinct is to defend your reputation, to set the record straight, shout your truth from the rooftops in the face of such blatant lies. This instinct is exactly what she is counting on. The moment you break your silence to explain, to argue, or to defend yourself, you have lost. You have re-engaged on her terms. You have stepped back into the arena she created and acknowledged her as the judge of your character. A negative reaction from you anger, a desperate text, a public rebuttal is, in her twisted economy, still a victory. It proves that she can still move you. It demonstrates that her actions, however vile, still have the power to pull your strings and dictate your emotional state. Your reaction, even one of justified fury, becomes the validation she has been desperately seeking. The true power, the ultimate countermove, is to let her narrative collapse under the weight of its own inconsistency. This requires a profound and almost superhuman trust in the truth and in the discernment of others. You must refuse to defend, explain, or justify. Your silence must become a wall that her lies crash against and crumble. Those who are worth keeping in your life will eventually see the discrepancy between her escalating drama and your unwavering peace. They will notice that she is constantly talking, performing, and reacting, while you are simply living, building, and remaining composed. Your lack of engagement becomes a statement more powerful than any words you could utter. It communicates that her attempts to destroy you are so beneath you that they are not even worthy of a response. You treat her chaos like background noise and, perhaps, but entirely irrelevant to your mission and your inner world. By refusing to be pulled into the mud, you force her to wallow in it alone. The storm she is trying to create can only rage if you provide the wind of your reaction. Without it, she is merely throwing tantrums in an empty room, and the silence that follows will be her punishment. A deafening reminder of her own irrelevance. The battlefield eventually grows quiet. not because the war is won, but because you have chosen to leave the field entirely. In the profound silence that follows the storm of her chaos, a crucial and transformative realization dawns. This was never about her. The entire agonizing drama, the push and pull, the tests and the punishments were merely the external fire in which your own strength was being forged. The pain you endured was not a punishment for your failures, but a purification of your weaknesses. It served as a brutal, necessary alchemy, burning away your emotional dependency, your need for external validation, and the parts of you that confused love with servitude. You begin to understand that you were not losing her. You were, for the first time, finding the unshakable core of yourself. This is the phase of reclamation. The energy that was once scattered wasted on arguing, explaining, defending, and obsessing over her every move is now gathered and focused inward. You stop seeking closure from her, understanding that true closure is not something another person can give you. It is an internal state of acceptance that you build yourself, brick by brick, through your actions and your choices. You begin to invest in the pillars of a sovereign life, your body, your mind, and your purpose. The gym becomes a sanctuary not for vanity, but for discipline. Your work or craft transforms from a mere job into a tangible expression of your focus. Your peace is no longer a fragile state dependent on her absence, but a robust structure you're actively building within the fortress of your own being. This internal shift fundamentally changes your relationship with your own emotions. You learn to sit with discomfort without needing to flee from it or have it resolved by someone else. The loneliness, the anger, the residual hurt, they are no longer emergencies that require her attention to soothe. They become passing weather systems within you, intense at times, but you now know you are the sky, not the storm. This emotional resilience is the bedrock of your new strength. You realize that the man you were before, the one who was so eager to please, so quick to over-explain, so willing to bend his own boundaries for a crumb of affection, no man could not have survived in the world you are now building. He had to be broken down so that someone stronger could be built in his place. Your most profound transformation is in your understanding of love itself. You see with painful clarity that what you once called love was often a toxic tanglement of manipulation and dependency disguised as passion. You learn to differentiate between connection and control, between healthy attention and manipulative games. Your own admirable traits, your innate kindness, your deep empathy, your fierce loyalty, which were once exploited as levers to control you, now become your greatest strengths. The key difference is that they are now protected by non-negotiable boundaries. You are still kind, but you are no longer a doormat. You are still empathetic, but you do not absorb the emotional toxicity of others. You are still loyal, but that loyalty must now be earned through consistent, respectful action, not demanded through guilt or drama. This evolution moves you from being emotionally reactive to emotionally selective. You no longer give your vulnerability, your time, or your energy to everyone who asks for it. You become a discerning curator of your own spirit. You develop a deep, almost intuitive sense for the energy of others. You can spot the subtle signs of chaos and manipulation from a mile away, not with cynicism, but with a weary wisdom. You stop falling for potential, thus she could be amazing. Fantasy ants start demanding consistency in the present moment. You are no longer impressed by grand gestures or intense, fleeting passion. You are drawn to the quiet, steady hum of genuine character and inner peace. This is not a process that happens overnight. It is a daily practice of choosing yourself. It is the discipline of biting your tongue when you want to send that text, of redirecting your thoughts when they wander back to the past, of pouring yourself into your purpose when the void of her absence threatens to pull you in. Each time you choose your peace over the drama, you are laying another brick in your foundation. Each time you uphold a boundary without apology, you are reinforcing the walls of your fortress. And as this new structure rises within you, the world outside begins to look different. The chaos you once found so captivating now seems jarring and unattractive. You start to crave genuine connection built on mutual respect and a shared desire for calm. You have turned every emotional wound into emotional intelligence, and in doing so, you have not just healed. You have upgraded the very operating system of your soul. The man emerging from this fire is not a harder, colder version of his former self. He is a wiser, more integrated, and ultimately more powerful one, whose strength is rooted not in controlling others, but in the unshakable mastery of himself. The final stage of this transformation is not marked by a dramatic victory or a moment of vengeful triumph, but by a quiet, pervasive shift in your very being. You have reached a state of emotional sovereignty, where the peace you fought so hard to build ceases to be a state you visit and becomes the essence of who you are. It is no longer a reaction to the absence of chaos, but your fundamental identity. This is the stage of the sovereign man, a state of being where your inner equilibrium is so deeply ingrained that it dictates the reality around you, rather than being dictated by it. You move through the world with a quiet confidence that does not demand respect, but effortlessly commands it by its very nature. This composure is not the cold, sterile silence of indifference. It is a vibrant, living stillness born from mastery over your own internal world. You feel everything: joy, sorrow, attraction, disappointment, but these emotions are now like weather passing through the vast sky of your awareness. They no longer control your actions. An insult does not trigger a retaliatory strike. It is observed, considered, and often released without a need for a counterblow. A provocation that once would have sparked a fiery argument now barely registers as a ripple on a deep, calm lake. This is the pinnacle of masculine strength, not the absence of emotion, but the supreme authority over how, when, and where those emotions are expressed. Your power is no longer demonstrated through dominance over others, but through an unassailable dominance over yourself. This internal shift creates an external magnetism that is undeniable. You walk into a room, and people feel it, a grounded, centered presence that is both calming and intriguing. You are not trying to be mysterious. You simply are a mystery to those who are accustomed to predictable, need-based behavior. Most people operate from a place of lack, seeking validation, approval, and reassurance from the outside world. You have transcended that. You no longer chase, you choose. You no longer plead for understanding. You embody a truth that requires no explanation. This level of self-validation is rare, and it is instantly perceptible. It disarms manipulative tactics before they can even be launched, for they have nothing to latch onto. A woman cannot play games with a man who does not play back. She cannot control a man who is the sole source of his own worth. Your entire life begins to align with this new vibration. Your circle of friends may grow smaller, but it becomes immeasurably stronger, populated by those who value substance over drama. You find yourself drawn to solitude, not out of loneliness, but because it is in the quiet that you reconnect with your purpose and recharge your spirit. You become intensely selective about who earns access to your time and energy. Understanding that your focus is your most valuable currency, you are no longer impressed by surface-level beauty or fleeting charm. You are drawn to a different quality altogether: character. You seek out consistency, integrity, and a shared desire for a peaceful life. The frantic chase for love is replaced by a calm openness to a connection that aligns with the man you have become. When you look back at the woman who was the catalyst for this journey, the final vestiges of bitterness or resentment have dissolved. She is no longer a villain in your story, nor are you her victim. She has been reduced to a neutral figure from your past, a crucial but closed chapter. You see her with a clarity that is almost clinical. She was the necessary spark, the intense heat that forced you to temper your own steel. Without her chaos, you would have never been forced to discover your own profound calm. Without her attempts to break you, you would have never learned the true meaning of being unbreakable. You can regard her from a great distance, with a sense of gratitude not for the pain she caused, but for the strength you were forced to cultivate in response. The ultimate victory is not that she regrets losing you, but that you have become completely indifferent to whether she does or not. Your sense of self is no longer tethered to her thoughts, her actions, or her remorse. You have outgrown the need for that external validation entirely. You measure your success not by who stays or who leaves, but by the unwavering calm you maintain as your life unfolds according to your purpose. You wake up driven not by a desire to prove your detractors wrong, but by a deep, intrinsic desire to fulfill your own potential. You have not just moved on from her. You have moved on to yourself. You have become the calm within any storm, the eye that remains still while chaos whirls around it. This is the power of the sovereign man, a man who is grounded, free, and dangerously at peace. His power does not come from what he controls in the world, but from the fact that the world has lost the power to control him. He has won the only war that truly matters, the war for his own soul.